I now would like to call upon Nate Buzz, as well as my good friend Gabriel Boxer. You can join me on stage here. Gabriel is the Director of Strategic Partnerships from Ariel and part of Ariel University, as well as extremely active on social media. Go look him up, Kosher Guru, I have to tell you, as well as Nate Buzz, of course, who's one of Hollywood's bravest and most dedicated advocates for the state of Israel since October 7th, but also before. He's become a true ambassador for our people. Welcome to the stage.
First of all, thank you very much for having us here at the Jerusalem Conference in Miami. Thank you to Bashev and ILTV and Ariel University for hosting us. Nate, it's a pleasure seeing you in Miami, a little different than seeing you in Israel.
Yes, it's nice to be here, and I'm grateful to be able to represent Ariel University after experiencing the campus and all the amazing things they're doing, not only for the students, but that community.
But let's get right down to it. Speaking about Ariel University, when you first arrived at Ariel University, what was your immediate impressions, the campus, the students? What felt different from what you expected before you arrived on campus?
I think one of the most important things about this university is its location. You know, I'm a big believer that, you know, the Jewish and Israeli identity really needs to build out a strong presence in Judea and Samaria. I mean, this is the heartland of all of Israel. And, you know, as someone who's outside of the Jewish community, someone who has, I guess, the opportunity and privilege to look from the outside in, but also to be on the inside and looking out and analyzing the whole situation, the one thing that I've found amazing about the Jewish identity, wherever you go, all over the world, whether it's here in Miami, New York, you know, London, Sydney, they really pride themselves on education. You know, education is paramount for Jewish families, for communities, for their young people, and Ariel University is an opportunity where young people within Judea and Samaria from all over the world can come and study, but be in the land, in the heartland of that. Now, what I found really interesting is from the last 2 years, one thing I've realized about this, you know, faux Arab-Palestinian identity, and I call it a faux Arab-Palestinian identity because it became exclusively Arab in the 1960s. It didn't exist prior to 1948. There was no such thing as an Arab-Palestinian in 1948. They didn't identify themselves as this. But just as the Jew has pride in education, I've discovered and I've learned over the last several years visiting Israel and Judea and Samaria is that the Arab-Palestinian identity takes pride in radicalization. And they radicalize their children at a fast rate, which means I believe that the Jewish people need to educate their children at a faster rate and be more focused with that because that's what the future holds.
Talking about education, you spent a lot of time talking with our students, including reservists, wounded soldiers, and young people carrying a lot on their shoulders. Was there a particular conversation or moment on campus that especially moved you, touched you, talked to you?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to sit with a soldier who was in a special unit. He was injured in Gaza. And if it hadn't been for Ariel University having not only the facilities for education, but also the rehabilitation center, he wouldn't be able to go and study. He needed to be somewhere where he could also do his rehabilitation and his study at the same time. And so that was just one story about Ariel University being so important. I mean, I think for people outside of Israel, sometimes it's really hard to understand the struggles and the challenges that Israelis actually have to face. Whether it just comes to simple things like education, they have more challenges than the average American Jew does when they're choosing their university. And that was just one example. But, you know, one thing that I remember is after I visited Ariel University, I went back to Tel Aviv and I caught up with a bodyguard that I had been working with at the beginning of the war, shortly after I came, post-October 7th. He was shot twice on October 7th on his way to the Nova Music Festival, ended up hiding in Sderot in a service station storage room where he almost was killed by Hamas, who had just infiltrated Sderot. We remember the footage. But I went and caught up with him after my visit to Ariel, and he said, "Oh, you went to my university?" And I was like, "You went to Ariel?" And he said, "Yes, and I love this university. It was some of the best days of my life studying there and getting the education that I needed." So, you know, I really have fallen in love with Ariel. This is why I'm I'm wearing the cap as like a promo thing. I actually wear it every single day.
Oh, I thought you were wearing it because you needed a yarmulke.
No yarmulke. But this is what I would love to see. You know, I would love to see both in Israel and outside of Israel support for universities like Ariel, like we have support in the US. You know, I live in Georgia and I support the Bulldogs, which is they play in Athens, and that's the university I kind of love because I live in Georgia. I really think we need to build this sort of relationship with universities in Israel. And if you want to support a university that's doing incredible things, it really is Ariel. And they're the ones who are taking the greatest risks, and they're really taking a strong stand for what should be a very common denominator between all Jews, which is Zionism.
Well, we're talking about resilience, and you mentioned the story of this bodyguard who was shot and went to our university. And after 2 years of spending time in and out of Israel during the war, Ariel University is known for its resilience, a sense of community. Jews and Arabs, religious and secular, Israelis and internationals, all learning together, even during the time of war. How did the atmosphere feel when you were walking around the campus during wartime?
I mean, it's an incredible campus, really. It's you know, I mean, I got to see some of the state-of-the-art facilities that they're providing for these students. I mean, particularly what they're doing with ancient wines and regrowing these vines that have been dormant for thousands of years was incredible. But, you know, when you look at Arabs, Druze, Jews, Christians, Muslims, all studying in the same place, what it does is it breaks the lies of the Arab-Palestinian propagandists. That this land is apartheid, this land is an occupation, this land is oppressing people. In fact, it's the opposite, and that's always the case. You know, everything that the pro-Palestinian propaganda says online is usually the opposite, and it's usually what they desire to do or inflict on the Jewish identity. So
I want to talk about that for just 1 second, because we're talking about our biblical homeland, Judea and Samaria, and what's being put across social media. Because the media often talks about Ariel, which is in Judea and Samaria, in very political terms. When you compare those headlines with what you actually see in Ariel, what do you think people abroad must understand about this place, about Ariel, Ariel University, and of course Judea and Samaria as a whole?
Look, I think it's the most important place in Israel because it provides a buffer. The reason why Tel Aviv can become such a safe city is because, you know, Judea and Samaria is in the hands of the Jewish identity, which is really acting as a buffer. And the more that life and communities and institutions like Ariel University are established and exist, the better safety Jews have all over that land. You know, I really think that it's essential that there's support from outside of Israel for these universities, because they have a really, really hard time even in Israel. Many people may not know this, but there's no legal department, there's no ability to study law at Ariel University, because there is a fear that all of a sudden this is going to become too controversial because of their location in Israel, which is unbelievable to me. So if a student wants to go and study law, they can't study at Ariel University purely because they're located in Judea and Samaria. It tells us how difficult the battle is. My hope, my goal, and my prayer to Hashem is that a day will come where law can be studied in Ariel University and students can get a full scope of education regardless of what the haters and those who oppose Israel desire to do. So this is one of the reasons why, for me, if I'm going to support any university, I'm going to support the one who is being the brave one, that's stepping onto the battlefield and saying, you know what, we're not going to be intimidated by the taunts and the mockery of our enemies. We're going to stand firm like King David did when he walked onto the valley of Elah, and we're going to hold our ground. So for me, Ariel University is the only university in Israel that's really saying, you know what, we're going to be the ones on the battlefield, and what we're trying to do is create life, create education, because the Torah tells us something really, really important. Hashem says, my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. Knowledge is so powerful. If we've learned anything in the last 2 years, this is an information war on steroids, which means education must be at the forefront of Israeli life. What's happening at Ariel University is going to determine how Israelis live in the future for the next generation and the generation after that.
So with that being said, I want to thank you very much for not only being an ambassador, but being a lover, a true friend of Ariel University. And one thing that I think everyone could take away from hearing what Nate Buzz, who not only talks about Ariel and Judea and Samaria, but actually walked the grounds, the classrooms, has a love for it, is that we need your help to get that education to everybody across over there and to walk away of just becoming a partner, ambassador, and joining Ariel University for educating the future youth in Israel and abroad. So thank you very much. And Nate Buzz, thank you very much for joining us today and talking about Ariel University.
Thank you.